my mom grew up Amish, and so this recipe comes from her Amish family. So today we're going to be making whoopie pies, and I got this recipe from my mother, and she got it from her mother, who was my mom grew up Amish, and so this recipe comes from her Amish family. One of my earliest memories is my aunt, my Amish aunt, coming to our house when I was a very little girl and helping my mom. I think my mom was pregnant or something, and so my aunt came with her daughters, and they made a huge batch of these whoopie pies, and they are so delicious. They're super soft, and yes, just they're very, very good. So especially if you are used to the kind made in the East, like in New York, that's the kind these are. They're very soft and delicious. So the best thing about this recipe is it is super easy to make. You just throw everything into one big bowl and then mix it up all at once. You don't have to worry about mixing the oil and the egg together first. It's basically like making a cake, and so you just put it all in the bowl at one time and mix it all up. I'm going to start with some flour here. And then we have, whoops, not white sugar. This recipe actually calls for brown sugar. I think it makes it softer. I think it's one of the things that makes it soft. And quick little note here, I keep a measuring spoon in each one of my, like my sugar, brown sugar, and flour. I keep a measuring spoon in each one and just leave them in there, because it just makes it so easy when you're baking. Makes it really quick. You don't have to go looking for something, it's already in there. So throw the brown sugar in there. Okay, I'm going to need some cocoa powder. I have this narrow measuring cup. I forgot what it was called for a second. That fits in there, and it's so handy. Anyways, need a couple of eggs. It's kind of a big recipe, and feel free to cut it in half if it's too big, but I like to make it, and then I wrap them individually and put them in the freezer, and then we can just pull them out and eat them. My kids like them I like them half frozen. So the kids can just pull them out and eat one whenever they want, put them in a lunch or whatever. They freeze really well, and so yeah. Baking soda. And then salt. And I do have the full printable recipe on my blog if you want to print this out, and I'll probably put the ingredients in the description below so that you can just screenshot it if you want. But if you'd rather print it out, you can go on my blog. I'll put a link to that too, and then you can just print it out and have the paper easily accessible. I'll put a little vanilla in, which I don't measure vanilla because I don't think it's that important. That jar's empty. I'm going to need another. There we go. Thought I was out for a minute. I use olive oil for most stuff, but you can use whatever oil you like. And then we need some buttermilk, but I don't like buying buttermilk because I never know if I'm going to use a whole jug at once. So I just use regular milk. And where's my vinegar? I just put a little bit of vinegar into regular milk, and there is still some oil in there from measuring the oil, but it's okay. It's all going on the same recipe. I just put a spoonful in there. I don't measure it. You don't have to stir it, but if you want it more even, you can stir it. And if you leave it sit for a few minutes, it'll get kind of thick like buttermilk. honestly, I don't even leave it sit. I figure the buttermilk's in there, it's done its thing, it makes it a little bit tangy like buttermilk, and so I usually just go ahead and pour it right in. But there, if you want to wait until it gets a little thicker, that's fine too. And then the last thing is water. You need to add some water to this. Okay, now we're just gonna mix this up. We don't need, like I said, it's super easy. It's like a cake mix kind of, where you just throw everything in and then mix it up well and then bake it. It's super quick and easy. Should probably plug it in. Okay, I like to use I just drip some. I like to use a cookie scoop to scoop out my cookie dough, because then it's all uniform. Especially, I mean, I use it for all my cookies, but especially for whoopie pies, because you're going to want to put frosting between and put two together, so you want to be the same size, and it makes it a lot easier if it's uniform size to start with. So I'm just going to scoop it out on here. I can't put too many on or they will run together when they're baking, so I'm trying to space them, but I'm not sure. We'll have to see how this works. So I found this Reynolds pre-cut non-stick parchment sheets, and I've been using them for my cookies because they make the cleanup really easy. So one sheet's not quite big enough though, so I've just been using like 1.5, trying to get most of it covered, but then you still have this edge, so it makes it a little harder. I don't know, I might just have to go back to spraying it, but makes the cleanup a lot easier. All right, my oven's preheated. I'm gonna go ahead and put these in. So while the cookies are baking, I'm gonna go ahead and make the frosting. I washed my beaters. I'm gonna use this bowl here. I've got 4 cups of powdered sugar and where's my measuring spoon? So I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of cream. Whoop. And you can use milk instead of cream. I like cream, makes it a little richer, but you can totally use milk if that's what you have on hand. Don't not make this just because you don't have cream. There's my timer. Okay, so I got my powdered sugar and my cream, and now I'm going to use 2 sticks of butter. I set them on the counter so they're room temperature and they're nice and soft. And then, lastly, I'm going to use some vanilla, which I rarely measure. It's supposed to be 2 teaspoons, but you know, vanilla's not that. It's not that big a deal as long as you get a little in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and mix it up. If it's too dry, just go ahead and add a little more cream. Just a small amount at a time though, or it will get too runny pretty quickly. So I might need to revise my recipe to call for a little more cream, but it's about right now. So I'm just going to beat it for a while to combine some air with it so it gets really light and fluffy. Okay, so these are cooled off enough now. I'm going to go ahead and put some frosting, and I use the same size scoop that I used for the batter. I used for this, and I just scoop it right on there. You put on, and you can push it right together. Well, that's a little stiff. If it's thin enough, you can push it together. I may need to put a little more milk with the frosting. I think it's still a little too stiff. You can you can spread it with a knife, of course, but it's a lot faster if you can just squish it. But the cookie scoop makes like the perfect amount of frosting. We like lots of frosting anyways, so. These are quite large. You could use a smaller scoop. In the past, I have used a smaller scoop. I'm not sure what happened to my small scoop. I probably got rid of it sometime when I was decluttering. But feel free to use whatever size you like. My daughter is helping me put frosting on these.
What happened was the life vest itself inflated and it tangled in.
Okay, now I'm going to wrap them. I like to wrap them individually so that we can just put them in the freezer and then pull them out and put them in lunches or eat them, as we need. So I usually just pull a piece off and lay it down over one and then just pick it up and tuck in the edges, and that'd be perfect. And then I put them in a pan like that to put them in the freezer. And I have this big roll of plastic wrap from Sam's Club. It's a little bit big to do these, but that's what I have. If you have the smaller kind, the more normal kind that you put in a drawer, that actually works better because it's a little narrower. And you could cut this stuff in half and then it would be about too small. So it's just, I just work with what I got. But this goes pretty quickly, and then it's pretty nice to put in the freezer. They don't last long, but at least then you can have them a little bit, longer. So that's how I make whoopie pies, and I'm going to put this in the freezer. We have guests coming tonight, and so I think the kids will enjoy these over the weekend. Go ahead and try it and see what you think, and let me know in the comments.